Welcome back to the Move podcast. We've got Spencer Martin somewhere. We'll find out where that is. It looks interesting. And Johan Bruneel somewhere interesting. Me, I'm back in my usual living room, but I'm very anxious to find out where these guys are. And we're going to dig into the 2023 individual men's time trial world championships. And we'll kind of break down a very, very surprise up and comer. I think we're going to spend a lot of time on that. And obviously on the winner, who's now a champion in two disciplines. We'll get to all that. But first, here is Lance with a couple messages from our partners.
Today's show brought to you by Caldera Lab. Now, we all know first impressions matter. If you're not taking care of your skin, that's going to be the first thing someone notices and instantly either thinks you're way older than you are, or just don't care about your appearance, like George. Show them that you do and make a great first impression. Now, here's a question. Johan, do you brush your teeth at night before you go to bed?
Of course.
JB?
Yeah, of course.
All right. I won't ask George because, but it's just make it part of your routine. Before you brush your teeth and go to bed, boom. Take care of that face. You don't want to look any older than you are. Scientifically proven to help reduce wrinkles and aging and be totally optimized. Special offer for our listeners. Head on over to calderalab.com/themove. Again, calderalab.com/themove. You get 20% off and you get to look younger. Today's show brought to you by Helix Sleep. Boy, you should have seen my sleep score this morning. So between my 8 sleep cover but my mattress, which I've been sleeping on the Helix Sleep mattress for years now. It's been well over 2 years. It's been a game changer for me. The fully customized mattress. I went on and took their 2-minute sleep quiz, talked about the characteristics of my sleep, and they make the mattress custom. And so it's special for me. The Helix lineup includes 14 unique mattresses, luxury models, mattresses for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. And they also just introduced the newest, most high-end collection called Helix Elite. That sounds like something George would like. By the way, don't take our word for it. Helix has been awarded the #1 mattress by GQ and Wired magazines. They also have over 12,000 five-star reviews. Helix Sleep is offering up to 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/themove. That's helixsleep.com/themove.
All right, before we get to the results of the championships here, let's start with you, Spencer. Where are you?
I'm in, the politicized name of the town. It's Murano. That's what the Italian government wants you to say. The locals say Muran. It's a German-speaking part of Italy. It's in South Tyrol. I'm probably 30K from the base of the Stelvio, which I'm doing tomorrow. Quite nervous about it. Very beautiful. I would say the Dolomites are maybe the most beautiful place I've been. I can't get enough of them. Come back as much as I can. Great place to bring the family.
So this is a family trip, and you squeeze in some bike rides when you can, it sounds like.
Yeah. And this episode's during bedtime, so this is fantastic for me. You've got me out of a pinch here.
And Johan, where are you?
Well, I'm actually, you just found out in our pre-show that I'm not too far away from where Spencer is. I'm in Austria, but I'm close to the Slovenian border. I'm actually not far away from, I forgot the name now, but the place where the last uphill time trial was in the Giro where Primož Roglič won. So turns out that Spencer and I are not that far away from each other.
Maybe you can meet him at the base of the Stelvio tomorrow.
Yeah, we could ride that together.
Well, let's dig right into this because I don't think there were any surprises that Remco Evenepoel would have a great individual time trial. Now a world champion as a time trialist, world champion last year in the road race. Let's start out with that. Of course, maybe there were more surprises of who wasn't up there, but let's start with talking about Remco and what this means for him.
Yeah, well, I think it was a big goal for him. You know, he knew beforehand that repeating the World Championships title on the road race would be difficult because it was far from an ideal course for him. And we saw during the race that he was actually struggling technically on the course, on the road race. But he had really prepared this event. I actually saw a video of, I don't know if it was himself or the team, how they prepared and what kind of things they researched. I don't know if there's anybody who has not that close to the event put so much time into the preparing of this time trial. He tested on the velodrome in Ghent in Belgium, different helmets, combinations, skin suits, a bunch of stuff. So he was really, dialed in until the very last detail. And I think, if you see how he has progressed during this time trial, he was, he started fast, but he was a little bit behind Ganna. And then he made up time on Ganna on the second point and the third point. And then finally he could maintain that difference in the last part. So I think he was one of the big favorites. Obviously, we know that he was in great shape. He won San Sebastian. He's preparing for the Vuelta. But this title for him was really important. I mean, listen, you have to think that the guy, he really doesn't like to ride in the team's jersey. I mean, he was world champion, but he's world champion. But just in case he didn't renew, he won the Belgian championships. Yeah, so that's already taken care of. He doesn't need to wear the trade team jersey, and now he's world champion time trial. So yeah, I mean, the guy doesn't like to ride in the team colors. Needs to stick out.
His market value is plummeting now. He can't race in whatever team he's racing for next year's jersey. So I don't know if he's going to get that Pogacar money he wants. As you say, I mean, the preparation was really impressive. I thought it was a water ball at first, but he had his radio taped to his chest in like a perfectly singular fashion. It looked like there was a lot of tape on there. Like it looked like an arrow fairing that was illegal, but since the race radio, it's not illegal. I was really impressed by that. I mean, they must have spent a ton of time and money figuring out what's the fastest way to tape this radio on. And I was looking up old quotes from Michele Ferrari, who's very smart. No, it doesn't matter what you think about his morals and his ethics, but the guy knows what he's talking about. Says it can save you like 2 seconds per kilometer if you can get the correct shape of your chest, basically. Like if you put Camelback on the front, you can save a lot of time in a time trial. So that must have helped him out. And obviously it shows us now him getting dropped in the road race probably had more to do with his positioning rather than his conditioning. It was just he was either at the front or at the back, and that's not the best way to race in a circuit like that. So the guy's clearly fit. As you say, he won San Sebastian. He won this. I was watching an Italian. I wasn't quite sure. It sounded like he was the youngest world champion in the time trial ever, or also the second 23-year-old to win, along with Mick Rogers, like 23 years ago, something like that. And is he the first Belgian time trial winner in a long time, Johan? Perhaps ever? What's the story with that? Ever?
Well,
yeah.
First of all, let's the World Championships time trial don't exist that long. I think it was in the mid 90s the first time that we started to have World Championships time trial, and no Belgian has ever won the World Championships time trial. But yeah, I mean, coming back on that radio, we've seen, and I think this comes from triathlon, where they obviously go to more extremes in terms of filling up certain gaps. We've seen it already in the Tour de France. Pogacar was using the radio in the front. Vingegaard was using the radio in the front. And I guess now it comes to a point where they put the radio there, but the tape they use, they put it in such a way that it really fills up that void. And it has been shown that that's a massive advantage.
I wonder if we'll see some kind of ruling on that.
I was just going to say,
I think we will.
I'm expecting at some point a certain rule that they're going to say, nothing can be added to the body. Then you have to ask yourself, well, if you put it on the back or in the front, they may ban radios altogether. They love to ban things, in UCI. Although I think at some point they became more flexible, because I don't know if you saw this, Spencer, both in the women and the men's time trial today and yesterday. The sock length.
Socks are back.
They've been being so strict on that with this ridiculous piece of equipment they had. They were measuring it before the start. I've seen riders with socks really, really high. I said, well, that's not. They definitely didn't check that. But yeah, I mean, listen, Evenepoel, this was his goal. I think it's a logical winner. The second guy, I think also, multiple world champion, Filippo Ganna, I think with a less than ideal preparation, in my opinion, because he prepared specifically for the track, won the 4-kilometer world title on the track. So, obviously 47 kilometers, it's extremely long in modern cycling, right? These kind of long time trials. Before 47 kilometers, you had like 2 of them in one Tour de France, but this is for modern cycling long. So I found it also a bit surprising when you saw the odds. Filippo Ganna not even one of the favorites. I mean, he is a multiple world champion time trial, and he almost won it today again. So I think those two were expected, right? And then the big surprise of the day, I think, is the 19-year-old kid, Joshua Tarling, British rider on Team Ineos. I think it's his first year professional. But man, what a ride. What a ride and what a performance in front of his home crowd.
Now, of course, he could have, this Josh Tarling, I want you guys just dump anything you know about him, but he could have done juniors, 19 years old, and he would have dominated.
Oh, under 23.
Not under 23. He could have participated under 23, chose to go to elite and gets a bronze in his first appearance like that. I mean, that is just amazing. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming that's a good move to have done instead of winning under 23.
I mean,
I think so.
He said on beforehand, he said, I don't want to do the under 23 championships. I'm part of Ineos. I have all these resources. It's only fair that I'm doing the elite. And then, I mean, listen, these guys know their value. Joshua, he knew that if he would have done the elite, he would have won. The under 20, he would have won. But what is that worth? You never get to wear the jersey because you're riding in professionals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a medal. It's a medal for the federation, but other than that, I think he is going to be a lot more proud of his bronze medal of today than a world title in the under 23 category. No.
Yeah, if you can finish on the podium of a world championships, you should not be I honestly think if you're on a first division professional team, you shouldn't be allowed to race U23s. I mean, I think Remco could have raced it last year and the man had won 2 monuments. Like, it's just, at a certain point, it's ridiculous. And you just need to kind of move on from that and let undiscovered riders race those races. But I think if the risk paid off, I mean, third at World Championships, the first teenager ever on the podium, which isn't actually that surprising because how often would a teenager ever be racing in the World Championships when there's a U23 available? But that's a ridiculous result. I mean, this, like, Ineos has to be loving the talent that they've signed. I mean, I kind of thought something was broken with the timing. He just kept hanging up there. No one could overtake him. I know he had a good Wallonia and he had trouble, or he almost beat Ganna. Ganna had trouble beating him, but I assume that was Ganna. Sometimes he'll be slightly subpar before big events. I thought it was the same thing, and that when Ganna got to the World Championships, he'd be leaps and bounds above Tarling, but not the case, obviously. And the kid is, if you look at the names below him on the result sheet, it's shocking how well he did.
Yeah, and especially also the time difference. I mean, he's third at only 48 seconds, so that's a second a kilometer. But the gap he has then with number 4 and number 5, he has 40 something seconds on McNulty and almost a minute on Van Aert.
Yeah, 49 seconds on Van Aert.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And then Tadej Pogacar is like minutes behind him.
Yeah, let's talk about the results of those few.
Had a bad day.
Wout van Aert, Pogacar, Stefan Kung, who usually gets great results. Looked like Rohan Dennis had a mechanical of sorts. We didn't really get a good picture of what was going on there. But is that just race season fatigue for most of those people?
In my opinion, it's the proof that cycling is becoming more and more specialized, and especially a time trial. If you look at Van Aert, you look at Stefan Kung, you look at Pogacar. Those are three guys that, first of all, they've raced full gas, the road race World Championships, which, as far as I can hear from most of them, it's one of the hardest races they've ever done. They were so tired. Pogacar was, I read after the race, not for the time, but after the road race, they had to take him away. He was feeling unwell, and then quickly recovered within the next 10 minutes. But he was so empty. And so you could clearly see, if you see today, the only one who was up there kind of in the deep final was Evenepoel. And now won, but everybody else who gave it full gas on the road race were not there. And then the guys who come from the Tour, the same thing. If you look at the performance of Wout van Aert, for example, okay, he's fifth, but Wout van Aert didn't come to the time trial to be fifth. He came to win, right? And here you see that racing a big tour like this, and then shortly after the World Championships, it takes a lot out of you. If you see that Filippo Ganna catches Pogacar, and Pogacar was nothing close to what we used to see there for Pogacar. Normally he would be top 5, right? Even if he doesn't have a great day.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny discipline, the thought of a standalone time trial, because as you say, it's so specialized. If you did the road race, unless you're Evenepoel, you're ruled out. And then you wonder, how is Tarling going to do, let's say, stage 15 of the Giro d'Italia? Can he replicate these results? I would probably say, just mathematically, if you can put out these watts for nearly an hour, you can probably do almost anything in cycling. If you want to manage your weight to a degree that you can start climbing. Some guys do, some guys don't. But I mean, what do we see? What could Tarling do going forward? Could he, because he's a big guy, could he lose weight and start climbing?
Well, I don't think personally that's going to be his objective. The guy's a powerhouse. I would compare him more with Filippo Ganna, although I do think that he climbs better than Ganna. I've seen him do things like working for Ineos and setting a tempo that at the beginning of the season, I said, who's this tall, big guy, of Ineos? And turned out to be Joshua Tarling. We haven't seen the last of this guy, that's for sure, because also Spencer, with all due respect, but this guy can improve so much in terms of his position also. It didn't look that arrow to me. He's probably the most arrow he can get with his body shape, but there's still something to do there. I don't think we should say it's a surprise, because the fact that he was so close to Ganna in the time trial in Wallonia was already an indication. But this guy, obviously, we're going to hear more from him, a lot more.
Do you think we're going to see him remain a specialist, but be a key tool to drive on the front for Ineos when needed? Kind of similar to what Ganna did, right?
Yeah. I think this guy also, he's really powerful. So I think that is also something that they're going to want him to focus on. A bit like they have this other guy there, Ben Turner, the tall guy. He's here, but Ineos, I think, going to go towards that kind of races for Joshua Tarling.
Well, let's not forget Ganna, pretty good classic strider. I just pulled this up. Second, I honestly had forgotten about his classic season, how good it was. Second at Milano San Remo, 10th at E3, 6th at Roubaix. Probably could have been better at Roubaix. That's the guy is a legitimate classics contender in his spare time outside of his time trialing, pursuing teamwork. So you could imagine the same for Tarling, where he's doing classics, some teamwork in the mountains. incredibly valuable rider to have in your team because he can do the job of like 3 or 4 different riders.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It was nice to see McNulty up there 4th, although it was, a bit of a gap, but still good ride from Brandon McNulty. Almost seeing an American on the podium.
Yeah. I mean, from he's 4th, from 4th to 3rd is not far, but the gap is quite significant to the bronze medal. But we haven't seen Brandon McNulty that much in action since the Giro, right? So to come back and be ready for a time trial like this, that's quite a good result. Fourth is the worst place in the World Championships. But I'm sure that if he sees the time gap, there's no hard feelings. I don't think he can find another 40 seconds anywhere.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, in terms of the rest of his season, not going to the Vuelta, but is he going to try to win something like the Deutschland Tour? Do you think that's what, or a Quebec race, like the Quebec GP or Montreal, and then it's a little funny to me that they don't have him racing at the Vuelta. I guess they figure they have so many young talents there. McNulty would just have to work, probably wouldn't have chances to chase stages. Maybe he wasn't interested in doing that and would rather just try to go win these smaller 1-week races or 1-day races.
Well, I think McNulty's probably better suited for a week-long race as the Tour of Germany than the 1-day.
Probably win that.
In the 1-day races in Canada. I mean, he can be up there. He's probably going to be up there with the form he has right now. But winning those races is being in the decisive move and winning is different. I'm also surprised. I would have expected him at the Vuelta. You never have enough talent, especially like UAE. Yeah, they do have Ayuso and they do have Almeida, but Jumbo Visma's coming with a strong team. So
yeah,
I would throw everything at it. Yeah, I would throw everything I have at it, to be able to rival them.
Should we go ahead, JB?
Oh, I don't want to shift gears if you're commenting on that. I was going to go back to Remco.
Oh, no, I was going to go back to Remco too. So go
okay,
ahead.
We're on the same page because the rumor mills around Remco and changing teams certainly have brewed back up and are really going to be steamy after this time trial win. What do you guys know about the possibility of him switching teams to Ineos?
Spencer, you want to go first? Seems that you have some. Yeah. You have a scoop.
I don't know. I don't think I'm questioning everything at this point because when it initially happened, the journalists who reported it, you kind of wonder, well, did they have information? What's going on here? And it kind of felt like they reported it. Are they just saying it to, just try to start a conversation and get attention? You kind of wonder that sometimes. And then Lefebvre came out, denied it. Lefebvre is then in a public fight with Remco's dad, who is his agent. It just seemed kind of like a poorly mismanaged rumor at first. But then I kind of started wondering, why are we hearing about this? If this really was and then Johan kind of, you kind of said the same thing, this is just BS and Lefebvre is not managing things correctly.
Well, I don't think it's Lefebvre. Lefebvre has nothing to do with this whole story. I think it's purely, and especially just before the World Championships, it came again, and I actually heard the interview of the dad of Remco Evenepoel. They interviewed him, and he clearly said, there's a contract, but we feel like his team, Soudal Quickstep, is not providing him with the best environment. And he said specifically, they don't have to make one step forward; they have to make 3 or 4 steps forward to be at the level of other teams.
He's not wrong. It's a correct assumption. It's a correct statement, I think.
Well, it's not as bad as 3 or 4 steps. That's not. I mean, listen, it's not a bad team. But first of all, I think that's complete. I think it's unacceptable of somebody who represents a rider. Let's just say it's not his dad, it's his manager, right? Listen, they signed 2 years ago and they wanted to sign for 4 years, right? They knew where they signed. So if you insist on signing 4 or 5 years, you need to know where you're signing and what's happening. It's not like, okay, we want to sign for 4 years because we want the security, and after 1 or 2 years we try to find ways because we know that somewhere else we can get more money or can get better. I'm always saying, and I'm putting myself now in the skin of the team manager, right? As a team manager, you said, okay, you want to sign for 4 years, but what happens if you sign for 4 years and the first 2 years are not good? Are you going to give a part of your money back that I'm already guaranteeing you for the next 2 years? So I personally think Lefebvre is not a party in this. He needs to respond because these rumors are coming up all the time, and the rumors come from one part. It's from Evenepoel's father that they come. And listen, I'm saying this. He's a friend. Remco's father is a friend of mine. Yeah, we were training mates before. I have a good relationship with him, but in this situation, I think he makes a big mistake. It's not professional at all to make those kind of comments. And it's only, in my opinion, with one intention: it's to keep this insecurity alive. And as long as there's other parties who maybe see an opportunity, whatever. I mean, if there's parties in cycling with a lot of money, they say, oh, maybe we do have a chance because everything's for sale. That's the strategy. At the end of the day, they have a contract, right? And if they have a contract, they're going to need to find a solution if they want to leave. And there's different ways of finding a solution. The best solution is to find an agreement between all the parties. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
I'm curious, when was this deal signed? Because there were a lot of question marks by Remco after his bad accident. So the security of a long contract would have been great, right? Because no one knew if he was going to come back.
Right? It was before he won the Vuelta. It wasn't 12 months ago exactly, before the start of the Vuelta. He did an extension into 2026 for like 2 million euros a year, something like that.
So Spencer so he won Liège-Bastogne-Liège once, and he won San Sebastian twice, right? That's it. Of course, he won a lot of other races, stage races, but he didn't win the Vuelta yet, didn't win the Worlds yet, didn't win Liège of this year. So Soudal Quickstep or Lefebvre, organization Lefebvre, had a lot of trust and put a lot of faith in Evenepoel to sign him up for so long. Of course, anybody would do it because that's a figure, it's a name you can build your team around. And the sponsors want to sign up for a long term to link themselves with Project Remco Evenepoel. But then it's easy to say, it's better at Ineos or it's better at UAE or it's better. But let's face it, Remco cannot go to that many teams. There's not many teams that are that much better than Soudal Quickstep. There's Ineos, there's UAE, and there's Jumbo-Visma. That's it. There's nothing better than and so first of all, he can't go to UAE. No way. He's not going to go to Jumbo. So there's only Ineos left. Listen, with all due respect, Ineos, it's been a while, since they won a Grand Tour. They have a lot of money, but they haven't won Grand Tours lately. And last year, Remco won the Vuelta with the support of Quickstep, of his team. And we all seen that they're making a lot of efforts to enforce their team. They're signing Landa. They're going to sign George Bennett. They're getting stronger. But I personally think it's a shame. Apparently today, I've read somewhere that on Spanish Eurosport, Alberto Contador is a commentator on Spanish Eurosport, and he said that it's a fact that, within cycling, everybody knows that Remco is leaving the Lefebvre's team and is going to Ineos with his entourage, whatever that means, cyclists and staff. I don't know what kind of information Alberto has, maybe more than me, but I think it's very difficult happen. They could eventually try to call upon not fulfilling the conditions of the contract. Whatever, I don't know how they could do that. But if this goes to in the judicial war, I think it's going to be a really bad thing for Remco. He doesn't need that kind of. And at the end of the day, we're talking about rumors. And in my opinion, unless Remco really wants this to go on, it's very simple. His dad says this, Lefebvre answers. You only need one statement from Remco. Hey guys, I'm really happy at my team. I have a deal until 2026. I love my teammates. I'm not going anywhere. End of story. It's as simple as that. Now, the fact that he's not doing that tells me also that there must be some kind of desire from him, whether it's under the influence of his dad or if it's really what he wants. Otherwise, it would be simple for him to make that statement and everybody stops talking about it.
Well, I think, so everything you're saying logically sound. Like you really shouldn't, in the middle of your contract, want to get out. That doesn't make any sense. But also, when Lefebvre's asked about it, he should just say, instead of saying, I could sue him, maybe don't say that about your employee. Just say, I don't know, I think Remco's happy. Go ask him. Unless he says he's not happy, I wouldn't believe anything his dad says. Probably would be the better thing to say. But if we try to get inside of Remco's mind, and you're completely correct by saying, like, he's not Pogacar, he doesn't deserve Pogacar money. But in his mind, he's saying, I'm getting paid 2 million euros a year. My equals, people he considers his equal, are getting paid like 6 million euros a year. I'm way underpaid.
That's not true. He's not underpaid. Last year, his contract is 2 million, and he got almost 2 million in bonuses. Last year, he earned 4 million euros. Not that bad.
Maxed out of those bonuses, though.
It's not that bad for a 23-year-old kid.
And then they probably have all kinds of side deals back home, different speaking engagements and endorsements.
No, probably not. Probably, I think they're minimizing on that. But what I think personally is that, it's he has his dad as his agent, but let's not forget his job of Father Evenepoel is not being an agent. That's not his background. So he probably could have signed a contract with a lot better provisions in there in case his son was doing extremely well. And that's probably the frustration. That's my takeaway. That's probably the frustration of them that say, shit, we signed this 4-year deal and now we're stuck. And he has bonuses, but what I personally, for example, you could say, and they probably would have signed it. If you say, okay, you have let's say you have a 2 million euro contract, right? We're going to say any rider. I mean, a great rider, 2 million, and he gets 1 million in bonuses during the year. That's 3 million. Well, what I would do is, I would say, okay, but those bonuses get also added to the next year's contract because that becomes your value. Right? It's an easy clause to put in the contract. And if a team really believes in that rider, they will sign it. Right? So in the case of Remco, he signs a 2 million deal. He gets 1.9 million in bonuses. His value becomes 3.9 million the year after. That's his fixed contract. So you get the bonus plus that's your fixed for the year after.
You didn't tell me I was going to have to do. You didn't tell me I was going to have to do math here. I'm getting a headache.
This is a little like kooky theory, but so let's say Lefebvre sells him for 10 million, right? That's the price tag to buy him out of the contract.
Oh, Spencer, I'm going to stop you right there. Spencer. That's not. You can't envision that because one thing is Lefebvre. He's the team manager, right? First of all, he is only 20% shareholder of the team. The other 80% is Zdeněk Bakala, is the Czech guy who's an investor, who's been an investor since many years. Okay, let's just assume that both of those guys say, okay, you know what? It's time to cash in, right? Let's just sell it to Ineos and let's And what are they going to do about their sponsor contracts? Soudal, Quickstep, Specialized. Well, Specialized, probably that could be worked out because Specialized would love probably to go to Ineos.
They would.
And since Pinarello has been sold to another company, Pinarello is probably going to move to another team, most likely, to an Italian team, Swiss-Italian team. But you know, these sponsors also made their commitments, and they have based their marketing strategy for the next years on Project Remco Evenepoel. And now all of a sudden, they're not going to agree. Lefevre is going to get sued by his sponsors.
Mm.
But if we invert that, and instead of thinking of the contracts as a hindrance, think of them as a positive. So Remco leaves. Oh no, so sad. Well, they've just lowered the cost of running the team by a ton. You get just minimum, you just kind of run it on a shoestring until 2026 when the agreements run out. You retire. You've saved a ton of money that's going straight into your pocket if you're Lefevre. I would be tempted to do that if I was him.
What about the sponsors?
Say, oh, I'm so sorry we lost Remco. Oh, so unfortunate. But we're still good at the classics.
One thing you need to know, and this is very, very specific for Patrick Lefevre's teams. All of his sponsors, except Specialized, are based on personal relationships. They're not just national; they're local to him. You know, there's been sponsorship deals and renewals that have been signed on a napkin after a restaurant. You know, that's how close he is with those sponsors. And so, you know, it's not going to happen like this. It's going to be no. I don't think they can. I don't know. Maybe I'm not up to speed with the news, but it's going to take a lot for this to happen.
It seems like it's going to be tough for him to come back. That would be the thing I would be worried about. Like, this seems like it could never really repair the relationship. It's not been a fantastic past 2 months.
I think the relationship. I personally think the relationship between Remco and Patrick and Remco and the team is great. I think the relationship between the agent of Remco, which is his dad, that's probably another, and that's obviously a problem for Remco. So maybe it's time also for Remco to say, hey, it's not in my best interest that my dad is my agent.
That's probably the correct theory or correct assumption to come to. I would agree with that.
I couldn't imagine that this level being a parent and agent. It just seems like a bad idea. Yeah. Today's show is brought to you by AG1. This has become a part of my daily routine. Like, it is just brush my teeth first thing when I get up. Then I'll have some AG1 followed by a cup of coffee. It is like clockwork every single day. And what it's done for me has been great. It just really has helped improve my overall health, my gut health. And there's enough science now linking gut health to mental health, which is a good thing. And just an overall good feeling. Putting in 75 high quality ingredients that give you the daily nutrients you need, the energy support you need, focus, strength, and clarity, all in a daily scoop. And one of my favorite things about it, and if you've tried any kind of powder drinks before, which I think all of us have, some of them just don't mix up. Even if you take it to a blender, you just pour some water in it, quick stir or quick shake, and it goes down really smooth, not chunky, tastes good. And all of that only costs less than $3 a day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement and routine, then try AG1. When you do, you'll get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 10 and free AG1 travel packs. Order it and get started today. Just go to drinkag1.com/themove. That's drinkag1.com/themove. Today's show is also brought to you by Ketone IQ. I am sitting here in my kitchen and I have the box right in front of me. And, you know, one thing I'm really excited about, here's just a little shot right here. Do that every day. And it's funny, I I know if you guys listened during the tour, I shared a lot of the story, how it's really helped with my mental clarity, focus, all of that stuff. My wife has noticed a difference because I've been on it for like 3 months now, and she has started taking a shot of ketone IQ every day. So I'll get back to you soon and let her know how that's affecting her. But she was having, the same kind of issues I was, a little bit of brain fog, not real focused, and definitely not good sustainable energy throughout the day. With ketone IQ from HVMN, problem solved. So subscribe to it. Try it for a few months and get back to me. Shoot me an email, jb@wedo.team. I bet you'll see some results. You can save 30% on your first subscription order of ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. Again, visit hvmn.com/themove and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. Last but not least, this show is brought to you by our friends at Ventum. We're all on Ventums now. If you haven't heard, George has switched to Ventum. Of course, Lance has been on it for some time. Myself have the NS1, the GS1. And it's so funny because, especially here in Austin, everyone was getting gravel bikes. It's become kind of a thing. And I was on the fence for a long time. And I can't tell you how much fun I've had on the GS1 and how it complements riding the NS1. I have a couple of these urban loops where I go in and out of parks and trails and back on the road and just kind of mixing it up. It's made it a lot more fun to ride, just having more variety with the different bikes. And you can get into a GS1 with SRAM Apex AXS for just $29.99. It's just hard to believe that you can get into a complete bike for that little. And then, of course, you can spec it out how you want, do higher end components if you want, nicer wheels, different handlebars, whatever you want. In fact, the process of going through it online at ventumracing.com, it's very helpful, very detailed, and you'll be surprised at how much you can customize your bike. Save 10% off, and 10% off on a complete bike really adds up when you use the code WEDO. That's WEDU at checkout. And that is at ventumracing.com/themove. All right, now we're going to go to a completely other end of the spectrum. We're talking about whether it's 2 or 3 million a year, big budgets, some of those top teams. What I want your comments on, guys, is I turned on the time trial today very early. I'm seeing riders I've never heard of from countries I'm not familiar with, and some of them not even on time trial bikes. I'm like, so enlighten me a little bit of, some of these riders coming and representing their country, which I don't want to diminish any of this. They're, what an opportunity to go race in the world championships, but seemingly don't have a chance and don't even have the right equipment. So yeah, what are your thoughts on some of these countries entering worlds?
Well, JB, for starters, there's 2 riders per country, right? Who can participate, and most some countries have only 1. And if you see that there's 77 starters, you can say, okay, there's 40 starters too much here, too many, But with all due respect, professional riders from Mauritius, Ghana, Cape Verde. What is this here? Eswatini? Never heard of this. Have you ever heard of the country Eswatini?
No.
No.
Ghana, Guam, Afghanistan, St. Lucia, the Vatican City.
Is there a bishop on a bike? That's not very aero.
There was actually a rider of the Vatican City in the road race, and he was a 40-year-old Dutch rider. I don't know how that came across, but no, those countries, obviously, they're there to participate. That's it. As you say, JB, there's a huge difference in terms of equipment. But with all due respect, the number 77. How long was the time trial? 55 seconds, 55 minutes. And
yeah,
30 minutes behind. I'm sorry. This should not be allowed.
Yeah.
I think there should be a certain standard, at least please be able to ride more than 40 kilometers per hour. Yeah, not 33 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, they can't base it on points because these riders have no UCI points. They're not even in any of those races.
Yeah, and in track and field, it's what Johan's saying. You have to hit an international standard.
Yeah.
So even if I'm the fastest cyclist in Guam, I have to hit some sort of standard. They probably should have something like that, but I would be tempted to do it. If I was from Guam and I was in the shape I'm in right now, I would go. Then you'd say, like, yeah, I was at the World Championships this year. And like, no one's going to ask you, like, oh, how'd you do? I did pretty good, actually. I was only 10 minutes behind the winner. No one knows what that means.
You could say I finished.
Yeah, I was up there. Yeah. I saw Wout van Aert go by me. It was, he was just right there.
Yeah, but also, one of the things also, JB, with those, let's call it non-traditional cycling countries, right, and cycling federations, some of those guys are there because they get offered the spot, because the World Championships is also for those countries one of their highlights of the season. The officials of the federation, they go on a trip, and also I think it also fits into the existing president of the UCI, always, whether it's this one or the former one or whatever. They always try to gain votes already on beforehand, right? And so these little federations, if they're invited, to the World Championships, and they say, you're part, but you're there with the big ones. That's a vote. That's a vote for the next term.
Gotcha. Now that's just making sense. All right, so they can.
We should also mention that. So let's just say, like, I'm just looking. There's a guy in Euskaltel, really small team in Spain, 40th place, only like 15 seconds behind Mateusz Vacek, who's a really good rider. Let's just say you show up, you're on a small team, you're on a road bike, you finish decent, you get 50th at a decent speed. You're from a non-traditional country, maybe you could like hold that up as some sort of resume builder of like, I was somewhat competitive on a road bike at the World Road Race Championships, and it like gets the conversation started at least. Because like I think Biniam Girmay, didn't he like go up through the UCI's? They have this like development program in Switzerland.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was not lighting the world on fire from day one. You're just kind of like slowly building and trying to get a foothold.
He was quite talented, Spencer. In juniors, he was one of the only guys to beat Remco Evenepoel, Biniam Girmay. But he came through the UCI formation or development program, which they put together for non-traditional cycling countries, right?
Well, the best example is Chris Froome. Didn't he go to the World Championships for Kenya, and he like had to pay his own way, and he could barely ride his TT bike? Do you remember this?
Exactly. Yeah, I saw that. I know the footage that he went off the ramp and ran into the official.
Yeah, and it turned out pretty well for him.
I got to dig that up. And we're gonna touch on some other events that happened this week before we wrap today. But also, historically on the move, we have not paid a lot of attention to mountain biking. Of course, we talked about Pidcock and the Olympics. Van der Poel got us all excited about the mountain bike race. Could he win in both disciplines? But there's a bit of controversy around this world mountain bike race. Fill me in.
Yeah, so it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's the elite World Championships mountain bike. As you said, we have Mathieu van der Poel, we have Thomas Pidcock, and of course we have the elite specialist mountain bikers. And I was surprised to see there's this discussion. I mean, it's not a discussion anymore. It's been decided yesterday, and they're happy about it. First of all, I would love Mathieu van der Poel to be up there and fight for the world title, right? But the rules say that in the World Championships, since he has not done any World Cup races, he has no points this year, that he has to start from the last row in the World Championships. More or less the same goes for Pidcock, but I think since he is European champion And then since he has done one World Cup race, I think he was a little bit further up, but not in front. And now, all of a sudden, yesterday, the UCI, out of the blue, has changed the rules. They apply the rules of the World Cup mountain bike races, which is different than the World Championships. Apparently, in the World Cup mountain bike races, they take into account the ranking of any participant also in other disciplines. And of course, Van der Poel is, I think, in the top. He's in the top 10 on the road. I think he's 6th or 7th on the road, and he's, I guess, number 1 in cyclocross. So now and for Pidcock, the same goes. So Pidcock benefits from it also, not to the same degree as Van der Poel, but still, now instead of being on the last row, Van der Poel is all of a sudden on row 5, which is a big difference in the start, especially. So I think on the one hand, it's great for the race because we all want Mathieu van der Poel to be up there, but on the other hand, it's the proof that I think the day before the World Championships, you can't just change the rules, and the UCI does it. They can do whatever they want at any time they want for the benefit of whoever they are interested in. And of course, it's in the interest of the UCI that those two main global figures, as is Van der Poel and Pidcock, are competing for the world title. And that's the reason why they changed it. I think it's bullshit, but...
Have any of the, specialty...
Let me be clear, JB.
Yeah.
Back in the days, if I would have been in a situation that it could have benefited us, I would say, hey, great, thank you, UCI. but from this side of the line, I'd say it's really not fair, to the guys who have to qualify. But then also I was in discussion with and this is even more off topic. We had the World Championships Gran Fondo, right? That's like for whoever wants to no, you also have to qualify, right? You have to qualify for certain events. So it's in age categories. We've had those events. Now, to my big surprise, because I know a few Belgians that did races and they qualified to participate in the World Championships. And to my big surprise, who's at the start line without having done one single race? The UCI president, Mr. Lapartien, is part of the race and starts in the front line. And if you see the video, I'll send it here, we can insert it. Starts and he almost crash 2 or 3 riders at the start. So they can do anything. Doesn't matter.
I was going to ask, have any of the, mountain bike specific riders been vocal about this, or are they just, there's nothing you can do anyway, just keep your mouth shut and go ride your bike?
They know, yeah. I think it's more team managers than riders, and plus they know that once the UCI makes a decision, there's no coming back. There's no way coming back. They're not going to change.
Well, I want your thoughts on it, Spencer, but I can't help but think using Pidcock and Van der Poel, because they spend so much time in other disciplines, but they deserve to be up there. They are talented enough to start with the front bunch, which is, our listeners all know how critical that is in a mountain bike race. I don't know. What do you think, Spencer?
I kind of agree with you, JB. I mean, they must be aggrieved because people, I'm sure, spent tons of money and time chasing these points throughout the year to be at the front. And then it's like, wait a second, I could have been at like my local 2.1 road race, racking up UCI points instead of traveling to all these World Cups. But at the end of the day, I do wonder, I'm sure they think some of these guys are like clowns. Like, okay, Mathieu van der Poel, you're just going to come in off the Tour de France and race mountain bike. But it does help them because it brings so much attention. Like, do you remember the year Sagan was in the Olympic mountain bike race? I thought that was awesome. And then I remember the guys at the front who were competing for the win because Sagan was in that race. Maybe I don't watch that race otherwise. So it does bring more spotlight to the mountain bike event than if they weren't allowed to do it, or if they were at the back and weren't really competitive or that invested in it.
Yeah,
you make a good point. It's kind of, I'll add to that. That's kind of, they used to talk about the Tiger Woods effect when he was in his heyday and he would show up at any tournament, even though we knew he was likely going to win. It just raised everybody. Everyone got more TV time. Everyone got more sponsors. Everyone made more money. It had that sort of effect. This could be really good for mountain biking.
It is good. That's not the point, JB. That's not the point. The thing is that they changed the rules. I mean, and this is no surprise. They've done historically. They've done it. Either they change the rules or they force a certain interpretation of the rules, however it fits them, right? But then, on the other hand, you see that you have these UCI rules. Don't do that the day before the race, man. Come on, this is ridiculous. Make it a debate or make it, speak and say, listen, it's better for everybody, right? And I'm pretty sure that the mountain bike stars who make a living off of mountain biking, they would see the benefit, but not the day before the race, and then on the other hand, and then on the other hand, you see that, for example, after the road race, and there you see that it's really up to, it really depends on in which mood they are, Little example, Pogacar finishes the road race. He is dead, falls down. He was feeling unwell, And then because he decides that he's super tired and he doesn't want to spend 10 minutes in the mixed zone to give interviews, he gets fined because it's your obligation as a rider. You have to be there. I mean, this makes no sense. Listen, the guy's dead. Give him a break, man. Come on. It's like, so there, I mean, anyway, this is an eternal debate. We are here criticizing them. I mean, I like to criticize them, but they don't care. Even if they hear this, they don't care at all. They're just going to move on and
right.
Hey, thank you very much. We made $50 out of the World Championships.
If Kade would have done that interview, no one complains more about answers they don't deem to be interesting than cycling journalists. People would have complained, like, I don't know, he wasn't very interesting. His answers were short. Yeah. Come on, give me some. It's like the guy is like in an ambulance. Maybe give him a break.
All right. Who knew we would go this long talking time trial? But this is all good stuff. We want to touch on some other things that happened this week. Probably one of the main stories, not all that dissimilar to Remco, is Chloe Dygert, who had if you haven't seen her accident from a few years ago, it's not for the faint of heart. It's brutal. Hitting a guardrail, and the top of the guardrail literally almost sliced her leg off. Coming back 3 years for this win is huge.
It's an amazing comeback, but it's not a surprise because she started racing again. Or at least in Europe, I think she came to the Vuelta first, and she was close already in a few stages. Then she did the Giro, didn't do the Tour de France, but what a comeback for her. 3 years after, but she won dominantly that time trial first, and then when she would defend the time trial title, she had that accident. And now wins it again. A week after winning the world title on the velodrome in the 4 kilometer pursuit, or is it the 3 kilometer? I think it's 3 kilometer pursuit in women. Yeah, I mean she's a super talent. There's nothing to say. Big engine. Yeah, she was unbeatable. Here again, the same thing happened. Demi Vollering, the big favorite, coming fresh off the Tour de France win very dominantly, was never able to be close to the medals. And then the big favorite, Marlen Reusser, the European champion, time trial, even abandoned, which was very strange and kind of unique in a time trial. One of the favorites, not because of a crash, not because of a mechanical, but just purely all of a sudden, she just exploded in her head and said, hey, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is it, and just stopped, went to sit on the side of the road and said, okay, I can't do this today. I think it's the proof that, and even in women's cycling, we've always talked about, the men's cycling and how dedicated it is and how the scientific approach is. We can see this in women's cycling also. She just broke mentally, and it was sad to see. I saw a lot of criticism on her on social media of people saying, yeah, why how can she do this, abandoning a time trial. I mean, listen, when the body says stop, it's stop, and when the mind says stop, it's even more stop. It's nothing you can do. And I think you have to respect.
She may have felt that way before she started and just tried to give it a go. But
it's exactly what she said. She knew that this would not be good, and she got convinced by her team that she could do it. And then finally she saw during the race, okay, this is not going to work. So she just quit.
You make an interesting point, Johan, as women's cycling grows, more races, more obligations, more commitment, more wear and tear. And we've talked about it on the show before. A lot of them have other occupations, and families and other obligations. So as the sport grows, the money needs to be there so they can dedicate all of their time and attention to this. Like the men are able to do, but more and more racing than ever.
Mm-hmm.
It also shows us.
Go ahead.
Like, to be a world champion level individual time trialist in standalone events, it's hard on your mind. I mean, it's a crazy thing to do, to go into that much pain for essentially an hour voluntarily. It makes me want to vomit, even just thinking about it. And the shelf life tends not to be long. Like, even think about Tony Martin. Like, he was a really good rider for a long time, but there was really only a smallish window of his career where he was consistently winning these big time trials. And you'd think if physically at 32, is he really that much worse? Probably not. I think mentally, you really it's hard over and over again to do this. And you hit a point where you're like, why am I doing this? Because she was fantastic at the TDFMs. Like, she put in great rides, won the final time trial, and then the standalone event, I think it just adds so much pressure to you, and it's hard to sustain that for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, now we know if Spencer, given the chance, would represent Guam, but now he'd also be vomiting on the course.
Oh, I'd go slow. Don't get me wrong. I'd be stopping along the
route. One other mention from this week, because he's come up on the show, is Ben Wiggins picked up a silver medal.
Yeah, silver medal in the juniors time trial. And, next month we have our THEMOVE Mallorca event. And last year, Ben Wiggins, and his dad, Bradley, spent quite some time with us there. And so he was a year younger still. I think he was still 16 then. He's now 17. So, what a ride for him, home crowd. I think he lost 27, 28 seconds. But, to put out the performance like this in the footsteps of his father, time trialist, specialist, already, I think, European champion on the velodrome, where his father started also. So things are looking good for him. It was really nice to see him there in second place.
All right. I think that's about going to wrap it up. Any other lingering notes there? Spencer, you always have some sort of stat that you just pull out and hit us over the head.
I do have a question for you. Now I'm wondering, Ben Wiggins, Remco's domestique next year. Is Ineos thinking about bringing him on? Maybe this is what Remco wants. He sees a big talent there. But Johan, I can't get out of my head. Is Remco doing too much this August? It feels like a lot. Winning San Sebastian, World Road Race Championships, time trial, and then now the work begins. It feels like a really tough schedule.
I follow you completely.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a long Vuelta for Remco. He's obviously going to show up in great shape. He's going to show up in great shape, but it's a 3-week race. It could be that this, because it's shifting the focus all the time. He was, until just before the road race, He was preparing for the Vuelta. He was reconning some of the mountain stages, some of the big climbs that he didn't know. Obviously, listen, he's in great shape, and he has a a rainbow jersey. That nobody can take that away from him for the next year. So it's that already in the pocket. It's not a guarantee he's going to win the Vuelta. So I would,
finishes 5 weeks from now. I think that's a long time.
If they would have told me ever in my career, hey, listen, you can win the World Championships time trial, and then we'll see about the Vuelta year. You may be good, you may be a week too long. I'd say, hey, I'll take that rainbow jersey home.
That's just bonus. Yeah. The Vuelta is just bonus if it goes his way. If not, what a season, right?
Well, and on the other hand, he kind of has to win the Vuelta, with all the stuff that's going on.
Exactly.
I want to be up there with Vingegaard and with Pogacar. I have the same numbers. I have the same power output. I want a better team. Okay, why don't you start with winning the Vuelta again? Yeah, and then we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah, if he doesn't win it,
this comes from a Remco fan, huh? I'm a Remco fan, but you have to stay focused, and you have to stay with both feet on the ground. And let's see what happens.
On a quick note, you guys probably saw or heard it. It was it Paulus who said in the road race he was at like 8 watts per kilo for a couple minutes. Mm-hmm. Like
I'm not surprised.
all this talent up there at this level, and it still wasn't enough. Like, yeah, just incredible. And then we've already talked about it on recent shows, how stacked this Vuelta is. I'm looking forward to that more than ever. But
one last thing, nothing to do with the time trial or with the Vuelta, but with the World Championships, the junior who won the road race is called Albert Philipsen, Danish guy, also won the World Championships mountain bike.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Did he get to start up front? Well, hey, on that note, I'll let you guys get back to your families, your interesting trips. Thank you for taking the time to break away from all of that to do this. This is really, really interesting. And who knew we would do one of our longest shows just on a quick time trial check-in. So I appreciate you both. Thank you, Johan, Spencer, and we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Thanks, JB. Thanks, Johan.